Okay, guys, it is Monday, May 11th. We are in Algebra 2, Mod 8. We're down to our last 2 weeks together. It's a very easy 2 weeks, a great way to end the year. So in your note-taking today, again, please keep taking notes and having a nice, neat, organized notebook. Not only does it help you if you need to refer back to something when you do your homework that day, but it gets you something that you can take forward with you depending on which class you're taking next year. Speaking of which, the whole point of the next 2 weeks, kind of our last 2 weeks together, today's title is Outline of Functions. Now, when I say an outline of functions, not only are we going to kind of produce an outline of what we're going to do the next 2 weeks, day by day, but it'll serve as a reference sheet, as a guide to show us what functions we're not only going to review and make sure we know how to do, but it'll do so day by day for the next couple of weeks. So really today, again, top left corner, 5/11/20 for the date, outline of functions for the title. Guys, it's an easy way to end the year. All we're going to do each day is I'm going to graph 4 functions that you're supposed to already know how to graph based on everything you've learned this year. So really, we're going to review all the different kinds of functions that you've learned how to graph this year. And as I do 4 of them in your notes, you're simply going to do 4 of them for homework. And those 4 graphs will be worth 2 points each. And you'll have an 8-point assignment for each day, the rest of the grading period, to kind of finish strong and finish out your grade. Now today, here's all you've got to do. We're going to do a day-by-day listing of the functions we are going to review and study and go over. And the reason this is important, because I know you're thinking, well, we're reviewing these. Why? We've already learned them. When you get to, if some of you are taking advanced math trig next year or even college math, many of these we're going to review and go over, you're expected to already be proficient at, and they're not going to spend time reteaching them. So if you don't really know them and can sketch them and remember the process for producing them, it's going to hurt your background in terms of being prepared for next year. So it's a great way to end the year. It's a simple, it's good, solid review. We can build up several points and help your grade and be done at that point, okay? So here we go. All we're going to do is write Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So this week, obviously today's Monday, just go ahead and write. We're going to create what we're going to call our outline, or our library of functions, if you'd rather use that word. So for Monday today, our only job, we're going to be done here in about 7 or 8 minutes, is to create an outline so that we know day by day the types and names of functions we're going to review. And there's even one new kind, our last day together, that we're going to throw at you that kind of combines all these together, okay? So today, Monday, go ahead and write create an outline. And as we create this outline for Tuesday, which will be tomorrow, all we're going to do is, again, we're going to graph 4 functions on, let's say, the front of my paper. Your assignment's going to be to do 4 functions that mimic the ones I just reviewed with you. Same steps, same types of graphing techniques. And of course, we're just going to write the name of each kind of function so that we've got an outline to organize the whole 2-week learning process. So go ahead and write the word linear function. So we've got the name of the functions we're going to graph, and just as a little note in parentheses for each one, a linear function is going to always say y equals, and somewhere in there we're going to have x to the first power. Remember the old y equals mx plus b idea when we have slopes and intercepts and things like that. Wednesday, we're going to go ahead and move on and review how to graph quadratic functions. The note associated with that word, of course, if you hear quadratic, your function. Now, it's going to be more complicated than what I'm writing here. I'm going to write y equals x squared, just as a reminder that a quadratic function has an x squared somewhere in it. Now, it might say 2x squared minus 7x plus 3, something like that. But the point is, we'll spend an entire day, 4 problems, big deal, and then you'll have 4 for homework, where we review the process for attacking and sketching a quadratic function. Again, you've got to know these heading into next year, no matter what class you're taking, because most of the classes you could sign up for next year, okay, they're going to assume you already know how to do all this and you're not going to get retaught it. So if we don't have a good solid base of review heading into there, you might be in trouble. So this is important. Thursday of this week, we're going to talk about what's called and review radical functions. Well, by the title radical, you're thinking y equals, and again, it could be a little bit of a complicated function when we start examining them. But in general, a radical function is a function that has a square root box in it. How would you graph y equals radical x? Friday, the title will still be radical functions, but it's going to be y equals, and it would be the cube root of x instead of the square root of x somewhere involved in your function. So they're very similar, but we do want to separate them because there's a distinct difference, and do those in 2 separate days. Okay? So far, so good. Then we head into our last week next week. And again, you're going to keep this in your notes as a reference or an outline or a library of what we're going to do each day. Monday of next week, we will review, and you have done all these, what were called, I'm not sure if Mr. DeMarco called them reciprocal functions. But a reciprocal function is any function that's going to have a x on the bottom. It might have, 3x minus 1 on the bottom or x squared. But if there's ever a fraction that's been reciprocated and I have an x on the bottom, that's called a reciprocal function, okay? Tuesday of next week, we'll look at absolute value functions. Now, every function I've listed so far, I know you've gone over and done this year because I remember helping several of you with these topics. An absolute value of function, of course, has an absolute value involved in it. So in parentheses, you're going to write y equals absolute value of x. Oh, if you remember, those end up looking like the letter V. Next Wednesday, we will review, and this is the first thing I taught you when I took over for Mr. DeMarco. They were exponential functions, and there were some logs involved. So that's when you end up with y equals, and you'll have some base, I'll call it c, for some constant, like a 5 or a 6 or a 3, raised to the x power. Remember, you had a missing exponent. Those were called exponential functions. Do you remember how to attack and graph those? Then we'll end our notes sessions Thursday with a brand new type of function that you haven't been taught yet, but is a great way to end any overview of functions. It's called a piecewise function. And I can't really give you a format for what it looks like because it is so unique. Just know that next Thursday we'll attack our final topic of the year called piecewise functions, and I'm just going to call Friday of next week a wrap-up day. That's a day where you're going to have to check in with me. That would be what? Friday, May 22nd, where I'll have a nice note written out, wrapping up the class, give a final notice of when everything that might be a little bit late is due. Hopefully that won't be necessary for you. But we'll talk about your grades and when to see your final grades, talk about a note or two for next year. Just kind of have a wrap-up day next Friday, the 22nd, as you head into Memorial Day weekend. Okay? So guys, this should all be written on your paper. It's officially your day of notes for Monday, the 11th. It's just an outline of all the functions we're going to review and go over. So as you head into next year, hopefully you'll be very confident in your background on graphing so that these processes aren't lost on you as you head into next year. So no homework tonight, okay? All your job today was to kind of listen to what I said, commenting on these, have these all written in your notes as an outline of what we're going to cover, and we'll start with our first topic tomorrow, and that's when you're going to have your next assignment due to, again, probably 8 points for each of the assignments associated with all these topics, okay? You don't need to take a picture and send me this. I'm assuming you wrote it. It's in your notebook, and we're good to go as we head to linear functions tomorrow, okay? Great job. Good. Only took us 10 minutes. No homework tonight, and we'll see you tomorrow, okay? Great job.